Hey, it's Fergie with recordingcrave.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully your day is going awesome. I've made a video talking about recording drums, miking drums, and mixing drums. Now, the drum set I'm using here today is a Tama Rockstar, so it's not a super high-end kit, but it's a nice kit, and it's pretty good sound. And the microphones that I'm using on the kit today, on the toms, are going to be Shure SM57s. On the snare drum, it'll be a Shure Beta 57. On the kick drum, it'll be a Shure Beta 52. On the overheads, on the ride side, I'm using a C1000. On the hi-hat itself, I'm using a C1000. And then for a quasi room mic / overhead mic, on the hi-hat side will be an AT4033. So they're not super expensive mics and very affordable, and you'll see what we'll get for a drum sound. Now what I've done is I've looped a small section of the song so we can kind of hear it over and over again while we dial in the drum set. So let me play you what I have. Well, the kit actually sounds pretty good on its own. That's what I like about even these Shure 57s. They just sound good. I mean, if you have a decently tuned drum set, you can have a pretty good drum sound. The player makes a difference too, because each player has their own tone as they play. Now, there's nothing on the drums right now. I do have some verb on the drums, but those are bypassed at the moment. And the only thing I've done was automated the toms, so when the toms came in for a fill, the sliders would come up and then go back down after the fill is over. But there's nothing on the kit, and that's what we're going to do now. So let's jump into it. Let me play this loop, and let's start with the kick drum, and we'll start with EQ. So I have just the kick drum looped up here, so let's listen to it. We'll start with EQ. I'm not sure that it needs compression, and I'm using stock EQ that comes with Pro Tools, so this isn't any fancy plugin that I bought. This is just the one that comes with Pro Tools. What I want to do is add a little bit of meat, a little bit of bottom. That sounds pretty good. And to be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to need compression because the drum isn't out of control. I don't know that it needs compression at this point. If I need it as I'm mixing the song, I might add it. But for right now, I'm not hearing that I need it. But we may need it later once I start adding the other instruments. But for now, I'm just going to keep it off. Just because you have compression doesn't mean you always have to use it. So let's close that out. And let's move over to the snare. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the kick on while the snare is going too, so we can hear how they work with each other. And right now I'm not using any gates, but we might use some gates if we need them. I also want to say that when you EQ a drum set, you want to EQ it and mix it according to the genre, the music style that you're in. This is kind of a ballady kind of a song, so I'm going to mix the drum set to sound appropriate for a ballad pop song. Now if you're doing a hip hop song, obviously that's going to be completely different, okay? So let's get back at her. Okay, what I did here, the snare drum, let me open these EQs up. Now the snare drum with one EQ was just not giving me enough of the snap and the meat that I was trying to get out of it. So what I did, obviously you saw what I did, was let me bypass that and let me play that first EQ. Let me bypass that one. I wasn't getting enough of the crack that I wanted and also enough meat on the bottom. So adding the other EQ helped me just boost that a little more. So let's play that. It's subtle, but you can hear the difference, and I like it. It just gives it a little meatier sound. Would you have to? Maybe not. Once the other instruments are in, you might not need it, but I like the way it sounds right now, so we're going to keep it. If we don't need it, we can bypass it later, but it's there. So there's the whole kit so far. Now I'm going to bring the hi-hat mic in. What I like to do there typically is do a roll off from about 1K on down. Put that high pass filter in there. Okay, now let's bring in the toms. Okay, let's just isolate those toms so we can hear that drum fill over and over again. I think on this one, I may try a compressor first before EQ. So let's grab a compressor. Let's try the one that comes with Pro Tools. And so far we haven't used the compressor on anything. I've left it off the snare, and I might leave it off the snare unless I need it once we start mixing. I like the natural sound of the kick and the snare so far, so we're going to keep it that way. So here's the toms. This is tom 1, and let's listen to that. Let's see if there's a preset in here that I can grab. This is called Tom's Tight. Now what I want to do is I'm going to probably use that same compression setting on the other tom too. So what I'm going to do is click Alt and then click on that and drag it over to the other channel, and they're both of them are there. Okay, now here it's real questionable if we need EQ at all, but let's put a little on. Let's see if it'll sweeten it up a little bit here. So we'll come over here to the same EQ we've been using. And let's play that. Okay, there's tom 1 bypassed, engaged. I like the EQ. It works pretty good. What I typically like to do on situations like that is what I'll do is I'll copy that EQ that I just did over to the next setting, and hopefully it works for that. If not, we'll have to redo it. But let's use that as a starting point. Sounds pretty good. Let's bypass those. There's nothing on the toms, just the toms. Let's turn them all back on. That sounds pretty good. I'm liking the results there. So we did a little bit of tweaking on the toms there, and that worked pretty good. So now the overhead for the hi-hat, typically what I'll do is I'll put an EQ on. You know, you can use a one band or whatever. Sometimes I'll use a one band, but sometimes I want to add a little sizzle to the overheads sometimes. And if that's the case, then I'll use like a 4-band or the 7-band. And sometimes I'll just go for the 7 just because it's there and it's easy to grab. And usually on the overheads, I'll run that up to maybe 3 or 4K. So we'll go somewhere in the middle. And what I'll do is copy that over by pushing Alt and then clicking on that and dragging it over. And let's listen to what we have there. Let's add those in. Let's give it a little bit longer trail there. Let's bypass the EQ, see what we got. Sounds good. I'm liking it so far. So let's turn some verb on the snare. And the verb I'm using is our verb, and it's called Studio A. And I may have done a little tweaking on there. I just don't remember. So let's listen to what we have. And I'm going to put, yeah, we'll just play that for now. Let's bring that intro in with the snare. A little bit of verb on the toms. Okay, now let's bypass what we have and see what we've done. we've done quite a bit, and that took maybe 15 minutes to do. So that was a pretty quick drum mix and EQ showing you what I did for the microphones and placements. Within 15 minutes, we had a pretty good drum sound. Now, you have to remember that the drummer will have a huge impact on how fast you can tweak your drum sound and the tuning that he has, because every drummer has a certain sound and they tune their drums a certain way. So the more seasoned of a drummer you have, the quicker and faster you'll be able to dial in a drum sound and get it to sound pretty good. But hopefully this video has been helpful. In the next video, I will show you how we're going to take this drum set and mix it in to the song. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in video number 2.